Greetings and welcome to another episode of Q Points Podcast. I am DJ Sir Daniel.
And my name is J. Ray, sometimes known by my government as Johnny Ray Cornegay III. What's happening, good people?
You are here enjoying Q Points Podcast, dropping the needle on Black music history. J. Ray, I got a question for you.
Yes.
J. Ray, can you recall and name the first dance move you successfully executed?
The first dance move that I successfully executed?
Yes, that had a name. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the first dance move that I successfully executed was the WAP, but specifically the New York WAP, because there was a DC WAP. The DC kids, we didn't forget y'all. There's a DC WAP as well, but the New York WAP, I was good at the WAP. You know what I'm saying? You you would add a little bit to it. So the New York WAP specifically was the first dance move that I think that I did. What about you?
Okay, so clearly the WAP was clearly my favorite as well. I think it was a combination of the snake and the WAP. Now, I'm very curious about this DC WAP. So if any of our listeners are from the DC area, you can always go to Q Points and send us a video email showing us, demonstrating what the DC WAP, because I am very, very curious to see what this DC WAP looked like. But the WAP was my jam. I have a childhood friend by the name of Anthony Barnes. Anthony had a birthday party for his 11th birthday, and there is a video. I remember specifically one of his relatives had the video camera on their shoulder.
The big joints.
Absolutely. And had it on their shoulder, and they took video of us kids at the party, and I was getting my WAP on. And I would love to see that video. I'm sure it'll be slightly embarrassing, but the WAP was just one of those things. Like, if you heard, okay, Jerry, if you heard this, automatically to this day, it's like Pavlov's dog. I just automatically start moving my neck, like, and going to the WAP. Yes. Now, the thing, and I brought this up because throughout time, Jerry, listeners, from the Lindy Hop, the mashed potato, the twist, the snake, to the popping and locking, and the jerk, to the heel toe, all of that stuff. Dancing has been the teenagers' outlet for all things, for rage, for sexuality, for politics.
Yes.
And there was no greater platform for teenagers than the television dance show, the teen television dance show. Yeah. And that's what this episode is going to be about. We're going to just talk about our recollections and the history of teen dance shows as it pertains to the youth and to popular culture and how it drove popular culture. And specifically, we're going to touch on Soul Train, because for Black people, and this is a Black music podcast, Soul Train was the beginning and the alpha and omega of dance shows. Absolutely. But J-Ray, so before Soul Train, let's talk about their predecessors. We can't forget Dick Clark and what he did.
Absolutely. So, American Bandstand in the early 1950s, I want to say 1952, if my history is correct, was kind of the introduction of the show American Bandstand. And it's so funny, Sir Daniel. And now that we're into documentaries and we're into looking at like history stuff, y'all have all seen the video, the recordings of these black and white videos with these white teenagers sitting very seriously in their seats, and they're like clapping along and doing the thing, right? Very that. And really just they were clapping along to the popular music of the time. So what American Bandstand would do would focus on the hit songs that were on the radio at that time, that the young people were listening to, and they would bring those performers. So those performers would come on American Bandstand. As time went on, we began to see a lot of black performers on American Bandstand. But when we grew up, Dick Clark was just part of our experience. Bandstand, I think, came on Saturdays with Soul Train. I feel like they were back to back. So I think you would get, I remember Bandstand first, because I think it was a shorter show, like 30 minutes. And then I think we did Soul Train. But so we would see Dick Clark, but by then it was like a combo. So it was like performances, it was like dancing, it was way more black people.
For sure.
It was integrated by then. And I remember seeing people like Janet Jackson on American Bandstand. I remember seeing Prince on American Bandstand. Right.
For the listeners, I'm pantomiming Prince's his interview with Dick Clark was just a lot of pantomiming and answering questions with his fingers, and Prince was wild. Prince was wild back then. Yeah. But continue, Jerry. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it was just American Bandstand was it helped. I think what was so different for at least me, I can speak for me. American Bandstand not only introduced new music that I might not know from black artists. Most of the black artists I think I saw on Bandstand, like I knew what their hit songs were, but it did introduce me to a lot of white folks. So I would get introduced to a lot of like new rock artists and new pop artists through American Bandstand. And I loved that idea of being able to connect with some artists that I might not hear on the local radio stations that I was listening to. What about you in American Bandstand, Sir Daniel?
So funny story. American Bandstand came on and Soul Train came on Saturdays.
Yep.
And so if you for all our OG listeners, I grew up Seventh-day Adventist. So
yeah, how did that work out?
I wasn't privy to seeing a lot of these things firsthand. However, every now and then I would, be sick and I can't go to. And Mom, can I not go to church today? And stay home from church. And as I got old enough, I was able to stay home alone. And I would see everything. I would see American Bandstand, and of course, I would tune into Soul Train, and just revel in all these new dance steps and seeing all these young people who were slightly older than me, but seemed to have it all together. Like they had the hair, the fashions together. Like it was an aspiration to be one of those young people on television. And especially as we got older and saw more, like you said, we saw more black kids on the show. Of course, in the 80s, it was more integrated. But I would see after school Dance Party USA, and that's for all my kids that were in the tri-state area. Yep. We also saw Dance Party USA during the week. Yep. And that was, what's her name? Kelly. Kelly,
I can't remember the host names. I remember what they look like. Is she still out there doing stuff?
No, yeah, she's the lead on the Regis and Kelly. She took that over. Kelly, you know who I'm talking about. Kelly Ripa. Yes, Kelly Ripa started as a dancer.
I did not know that.
Yes, it's well documented. She started as a dancer on Dance Party USA, and I'm so glad. So our day one in the chat, Mark McPherson brought up Solid Gold, and I'm glad you brought up Solid Gold. Solid Gold was definitely must-see television because Darcel and the gang, we all wanted to see them swinging their hair and whatnot, but they were definitely more performance and routine. The specific difference about these shows that we're talking about on this episode is that there were teens, people that looked like us in our age group that were the actual stars of the show.
Yep.
Yes, they had people come in. They had a Janet Jackson. They had Tina Marie come in on American Bandstand, bands. They had them all there, but the teens were the star of the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So interestingly enough, you mentioned Dance Party USA, and I remember mentioning this when we were planning. So Dance Party USA, I grew up in Chester, PA, which is where I am right now. So both American Bandstand and Dance Party USA started in the Philly area, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Dance Party USA is unique in that it actually is an outgrowth of a show that I remember very vividly called Dancing on Air. If you grew up in the Philly area, because they taped in Philly, it was all of your folks would be on Dancing on Air, and it came on during the week. After cartoons would go off, so we're talking maybe 4 or 5 o'clock. Dancing, it's probably 4 o'clock because the news had to come on, or 4:30. It was 4:30 because they were 30-minute shows. Dancing on Air would come on, and if y'all visit our social media, we have actually a clip that's from Dance Party USA, and these teens is getting it, okay?
Doing the thing. So listen, so I'm glad you brought up like local television shows.
Mm-hmm.
So I came to the great state of Georgia at the ripe old age of 16. So I finished high school here and got embedded immediately into teenage culture and really became a teenager in Georgia. And one of the things I need all my folks from Atlanta, class of 93, class of 92, I need you all to tap in because I need you all to reinforce what I'm about to say here. We lived for, what was the name of that show? The name of the show was, oh my God, I can't believe I forgot it that quick. Atlanta Jams.
Tell me about Atlanta Jams.
Atlanta Jams was hosted by people like Carol Blackman, Dangerous Darren Fears, Jerry Smoking B, you know, and unknown, a young aspiring comedian and radio jock by the name of Ryan Cameron. They were all jocks that would come on the air. I guess it was a partnership at that time with between V103 and a local Fox affiliate station, and they would set up at they would set up at various places. I know they set up at Sharon's Showcase at one point, and various like roller rinks in the Atlanta area to do these teen dance shows, and they would have all the teens from all the various high schools around the area come through. And this is what, 90, 91, 92. So the main dance, and this is my favorite part, every episode they would throw on Strafes, Set It Off.
Yeah.
And all the kids, you would see them in unison doing the Bart Simpson. So this was before Michael Jackson, Fatima and Michael Jackson made it popular on in the Remember the Time video. So you see all these kids wearing their cross colors and their, you know, the stacked hairstyles and the polo shirts, everybody in unison just, you know, doing the Bart Simpson, sliding from left to right. And, you know, of course, the popular song, well, of course, like I said, they were dancing to Set It Off, and then they would go into like Treat Me Right by Chubb Rock and all the jams that were going down back then. But that was such an important part of old Atlanta history because that's how TLC, if you notice, all of their early dance moves, all of that stuff came from Atlanta Jams, came from Laces, the skating rinks, Cascade, all of those places, because that's where we would go to let it out, to get out all their expression on the dance floor. Because of course you couldn't go to, you can't go to a nightclub. Right. Because you're underage, but you got the skating rink and you got a show like Atlanta Jams that will come on television. And then, you would watch because you would want to see yourself or you would be looking for your classmates on television. So this is why we're talking about teen dance shows, is because they drove the culture. They really did.
Absolutely. And I think a couple of things I want to just highlight. One of the the outgrowths of radio were these
Mm-hmm.
shows, right?
Yep.
So to your point, a lot of the original hosts were probably a radio DJ that
Yes.
would come in, and even if they weren't the permanent host, they would have something to do with the show because that would also bring the kids in. And on top of that, when you go back on YouTube, y'all, I highly encourage this. When you go back and watch these shows, what we're also talking about is community. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like the same conversation that we were having when we were talking about like the importance of dance music. And we got into this conversation of like teen clubs. If y'all haven't listened to that show, go listen to that show because this show is a parallel, right? Of you are watching these teens be teens, right? But be in community with one another, dancing to music that was made. One, it made you feel good. It was made for them and it was made for people to dance to. And these teens were coming up with dances, showing the latest fashions, all of that. And we got a chance to be part, like feel like we could be part. Even if we were too young watching, it's like, no, I aspire to be on Dancing on Air or Dance Party USA one day.
Absolutely.
One
Go
more
ahead.
thing that I also, this is just a memory. One of my favorite moments in The Last Dragon is watching them attempt to get into the show and be part of the show, right?
Listen,
Yeah, I didn't even know you were wearing. I did not pay attention to that. I
wore my
promise you.
Seventh Heaven T-shirt specifically because I was just about to ask you a question based on the fact that Hollywood has always known the power of teenagers.
Yeah.
Like Hollywood, Wall Street, they've always known the power of teenagers, the spending power, all of that, or because they would get their parents to buy them stuff, or teens literally drove all kinds of industries, whether it was music or television or movies. And I was going to ask you, what was one of your favorite teen movies? Because teen movies, especially in the 80s and the late 90s, were always centered around some type of dance contest, dance event, prom. One of my favorites, of course, is Fame.
Mm-hmm.
Because that whole movie is centered around a school of about the arts. But as J. Ray beat me to the punch, Seventh Heaven, The Last Dragon is my absolute favorite. My absolute favorite teen dance movie centered movie, and specifically because of the late great Vanity, aka Laura Charles, at Seventh Heaven,
in our hearts,
talking to her cloud crowd, the host of the New Generation, my cloud crowd, and of course T-Mac legendarily saying at the end of the movie, "Can you show me some moves?" That's what really brought us together. And then in the 90s, you got, I'm Black and You're White, Let's Dance. Save the Last Dance. And what else?
But
what was your
okay? So now
movies?
this was not a teen dance club movie, but it was definitely a teen dance film. My favorite non-black teen dance film, Dirty Dancing, hands down.
Oh yeah.
Hands down. Dirty Dancing goes off. If you've never seen it, go watch it because it still goes off.
Shout out to my cousin Delissa in Toronto. When Delissa, she was maybe like 5 years younger than me. She used to annoy us so bad whenever Dirty Dancing was on because she knew the dialogue frontwards and backwards and would recite it while we were watching the movie. And she used to annoy us so bad back then. But shout out to Delissa for never putting baby in the corner. But yeah, those highlighting those different aspects of teen life, or allowing us to see ourselves in those different phases, is such an important part of popular culture. And I'm trying to recall recently anything close to that.
I was thinking about that as we were getting ready for this show, and I agree. Y'all let us know in the chat. Is there anything, do the teens today have a some sort of show like this, one, I don't know what they would dance to, because I listen, and that's no shade. I've
Yeah.
listened to what's on the radio, right? And I'm like, I don't know that I could dance to this. And you know what? You know what else I've noticed? In researching for this show, one of the beautiful things, and it's even in the clip that we put up, is these young people are dancing with each other. Notice it's very heteronormative, right? That was just the world we lived in now. Now, I think if we did it, we would see a lot more variety in terms of, we would see different kinds of couples, dancing with each other, which I think would be really dope. But the dances today that I've seen are very solitary, right? These are dances that people can do in groups, but they're dances they do individually.
Okay, I'll push back a little bit. Now, what we don't see is because nobody's, and well, damn, these aren't teens. I was going to say there are teens. So we don't have television shows per se, but now we've got TikTok and we've got social media. So that's where I feel the young people are going to their creative outlets, especially for dancing. And there was that video that went viral of the black young men in Paris that were doing this waist winding dance.
Oh, yeah. Like the three brothers. Yeah.
It's like several of them, and they would be whining, and they would be up on escalators, and so that's what they do. And I'm wondering why nobody has like tried to or attempted to create any kind of medium using television. Maybe television is such a dinosaur of a medium, especially when it comes to teens now. Maybe that's probably why. But I just wonder why they haven't tried to capitalize on it. Because even with the popularity of your Afrobeat and piano, a lot of them, if you go to like the Instagram account of Rocksteady, like they post videos from their specific nights, and all of them are dancing in unison to like a specific song, and they all know what certain dances to do to that particular song or that particular. So there's still some tribalness still going on with the young people.
Okay.
So I don't want to completely say y'all ain't carrying on the tradition no more. We're not going to do y'all like that. You are carrying on the tradition in your own way.
To that point as well, I think one of the reasons why this probably doesn't happen in the same way that we've seen it too might be licensing. Because when you look back at these shows, like they're also, there's royalties that have to be paid. Yeah, with these songs being on national TV, I imagine that's expensive to be able to do. So I'm sure that's part of it as well. But Sir Daniel, I think this is a good time to bring up kind of the grandness of the show that was part of our weekly existence.
The GOAT. So, J-Ray, we've recently had a string of bad weather. And you know who I kept thinking about? Especially on the snow days, I kept thinking about parents. I can't imagine being a parent and having to come up with things like to occupy your children's time. But at the same time, they're missing school, so you want it to be a productive time as well. Luckily for all our parents out there, we have a great friend by the name of Penny. I'm talking about What's Poppin' Penny, the fantastic children's show, and it is now available on YouTube, J-Ray. Their first animated episode is coming out this spring of 2025.
That's right, DJ Sir Daniel. So it is the goal to have 1,000 subscribers on the What's Poppin' Penny YouTube page. So parents, caregivers, teachers, trusted adults, if you can hear the sound of our voices, go on over to YouTube and subscribe to What's Poppin' Penny so that your brownstone buddies can check out the animated version of the show when it is released this spring.
It doesn't matter, even if you're already subscribed and listening to the show on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, you gotta go over to YouTube and hit that subscription button. Subscribe.
Peace. The GOAT of dance shows. we literally at Black Function still do a thing that happened in this show, and that is, of course, Soul Train.
Yes, we still do the Soul Train line. It is nothing tradition. If that's a tradition that has been continuously passed down, it is that. It is the Soul Train line. It is the electric slide where we hope everybody can do it and not mess it up. But yes, we still, Soul Train is probably one of the greatest cultural contributions that Black people have been at the helm for. So, shout out to Don Cornelius and his genius at the time of him wanting to counter Dick Clark.
Yep.
And say, look, they barely want us on the same stage with the white kids. What's that movie? Hairspray is based on a Baltimore television show that integrated the teens dancing together on television, because of course the parents and the powers that be did not want to see the black and white kids dancing together. But here Don Cornelius was like, you know what, bump all that, we want our own thing. And pioneered a television monster like Soul Train, was able to get the sponsors, able to call upon, like our publications like Ebony and Jet. That monster publication to do all of their advertising. And that's something that I loved about Soul Train, is all the commercials were magnificently Black. JUSTFORME. And what was all the soul collections? Nah, my brother, you got to get your own. You saw all of those commercials during Soul Train, and it was magnificently Black, and you got to see yourself on television in commercials, but also on the dance line.
There was that part that thank you, Sir Daniel, for raising that up, because that's part of the magic that we don't often remember about Soul Train, is for that 1 hour of time that Soul Train was on. Like, you were watching the blackest thing on network television at that moment, right? You had an all-Black cast of these dancers that you got to know. Like, we all started to remember the dancers and what moves they would do and who, what their style was, and you would look for them, right? So we got a chance to see that magic. We got a chance to see this Black man at the helm. We got a chance to see some education. Remember, they would do the scramble words, and the young people would have to unscramble the words, which would have some sort of history fact to it that they would have to unscramble, or something about a song. And you hit the nail on the head. We would surround that with all of these advertisements for products that we knew, but that featured Black folks. That was Soul Train's magic.
I just want to sit with that for a minute. Like, it was just the perfect microcosm,
Yeah.
And of course, it yielded quite a few stars.
Oh my God!
Because not only did our parents have an opportunity to see some of their favorite singers and bands perform on Soul Train, but then Soul Train was also like a crock pot for talent.
Yes, absolutely.
Shalimar, for all intents and purposes, Shalimar is a legendary group because Jody Watley came out of Soul Train.
Grammy winner, Miss Jody Watley. It was a Soul Train dancer. We have.
Let me stop mentioning Jody and Shalimar together.
Right, but it happened.
It happened.
Happened. Basically, when you think about Solar Records as an existence, right, which is kind of really an outgrowth of the stuff that was happening on Soul Train.
Tell them what Solar Records stands for.
Solar Records is the sound of Los Angeles Records, which of course signed Shalimar and a bunch of other classic acts. And that was really, like I said, an outgrowth of what was happening on Soul Train. Our friend of the show, Kipper Jones, was danced on Soul Train, so you could find Kipper dancing on Soul Train.
Jermaine Stewart, I
Yes.
love how if we didn't know their names, we assigned them some type of descriptive information, like the Asian girl,
The Asian girl with the
that's
long
supposed
hair, but a couple.
but she didn't. And think about that. I have to go back and watch those that series on YouTube about I Was a Soul Train Dancer. But think about that, being the only Asian cast member on that show, and being part of such a culturally impactful moment by as the only one there. And of course, fast forward to the 80s and 90s. Remember the tall, slender dude that always wore like
With
the
the
zoot
suits,
suit,
with the suit,
and he
with the pads and the
yeah,
hat.
and was
He
always
was
doing some,
grunting.
he and his crew was doing some dances on that show. But they became so important because you would see them in the videos.
Yes.
And so as hip hop came on, started maturing and getting budgets for music videos, what did the artists do? If they performed on Soul Train, after they performed on Soul Train, more 9 times out of 10, you would see a lot of the kids that were on Soul Train as cast dancers ended up in these music videos and started garnering their own fame from being in these videos.
Yeah. It was interesting because I didn't know this fact. So we just mentioned Kipper, who danced on Soul Train. Uh, Somebody put up Vanessa's The Right Stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeffrey Daniel, who's from Soul Train, part of Shalimar, was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I choreographed that. And all the dancers that were in that were from Soul Train.
See? If we wouldn't have gotten the dancers, I call them the poison dancers, but they're the young ladies that dance back up for Belle Biv DeVoe, came from Soul Train as well. Like they were dancing around the city, and danced in teen clubs, but Soul Train, of course, had to be one of those places where, they showcased their talent and like killed it. Like that whole J-Ray, there was a whole, I don't know if you noticed this, but there was like a whole regime of young women dancers from like 89 to up to like 99, and some of the more famous ones that we got to know were Fatima Robinson, were Big Les, Josie, I can't, some of the others I can't think of their names right now, but they became so popular from being on those shows. And we can't forget Club MTV for being on those shows, and then creating a brand. Like we knew them.
Yes.
We knew those girls when we saw them dancing with Mary, when we saw them dancing behind Belle Biv DeVoe. And it all came from being a part of teen culture, teen dance culture. And I think, we're so caught up right now in these conversations about hip hop being dead and the culture being stagnant. I think we need to turn our attention also to the other parts of the culture that are not as glamorized or as praised as the rap aspect, the money making aspect. Dancing is a huge part of hip hop culture, is a huge part of teen culture, and that needs to be recognized.
I wholeheartedly agree. And I think the other thing too, to highlight that, because especially as we move into hip hop, so of course Soul Train for a long time didn't have a lot of hip hop on the show. You would get a hip hop act here and there, but as we move into the 90s, one, Shamar Moore becomes a long running host. So he's on, the soap operas. And then on the weekends, you get to see Shamar dancing down the Soul Train line. Y'all, Shamar Moore, who is currently on, what's the show that he's NCIS, one of them shows, was a host of Soul Train, if you did not know, as well. And with cornrows and everything, it was a whole thing.
If you're on Black Twitter, you've seen those Shamar Moore memes. You've got to have seen them, where he's doing these very rigid, he's doing a butterfly in one of them, and it's the most rigid, light-skinned butterflies you've ever seen. God bless him.
God bless him. I wanted to highlight one, like we talked about, Soul Train definitely continued on as hip hop began to become more in the culture. Soul Train continued. But you know what else Don Cornelius and Soul Train did that I think is dope? Soul Train had performers on that weren't like your top. You would have, we saw Madam X on Soul Train.
True.
They performed just that my type of girl, or just that type of girl on Soul Train. Baby, Sherman Hemsley gave some of the most raucous performances you will ever see on Soul Train. So
I
Soul
think people
Train,
forget that Sherman Hemsley had like a recording
an
career.
entire recording career. Sherman Hemsley was a very active in his recording career. So if you go back in time, Soul Train also just captured these moments in Black history that Q Points loves to lift up as well. Chances are the majority of the people that we talk about probably have some episode of Soul Train that we could pull out and put into the world, because that's
For
what Don
certain.
Cornelius did.
That's what he absolutely did. And what we were seeing, speaking of hip hop, so like that era, we were seeing, more hip hoppers starting to incorporate dancers
Mm-hmm.
and dances into their videos. So you had the Bugle Boy crew, you had, the Polo Boys, you had all those crews that you would start to see the same kids in all the hip hop videos that had some commercial aspect to it, but had some danceability. And of course, that became a part of the package. It's like, okay, you're gonna make a video, so we're gonna have to have some dancers in the video. Make sure that's where you had people like Puff Daddy at the
Mm-hmm.
time going out and, oh God, I hate to say it this way, recruiting
I know.
recruiting young people to be in these videos.
Right.
But can you imagine your excitement?
Mm.
Imagine the excitement of seeing somebody say, "Hey, there's a Heavy D is shooting a video, and we need people to be in the background and be in the dance in the background. Can you come to such and such and be there?" Imagine that excitement, J. Ray. Imagine I never got the chance to do it, but that didn't stop me from preparing for it.
Oh
I knew I
Lord,
was
what
going to
happened?
I was going to, make sure I had my hot top fade intact, and make sure I found something to wear in case I got scouted to be in one of those videos, because you got Finesse and Quiz film the videos, and a lot of their friends from high school were in the videos, and I just knew that at some point I was going to be featured in one of these rap videos, especially after Special Ed filmed I Got It Made,
Mm-hmm.
and he filmed it in front of the Brooklyn Public Library at Grand Army Plaza.
Uh-huh.
And I would go there every day. We would go there every day, and we were like, "Where are the video cameras? When are they going to shoot a video with us in it?" So that made me remember of this this one time at Hanson Place in Brooklyn. I believe it was during PE class. I got my partner in crime at the time. Her name was Keisha Scott. Keisha, if you're listening, I know
Shout
you
out to
remember.
Keisha.
Shout out to Keisha. And I know Shawana Scott, not any relation, but Shawana Scott witnessed this incident, and she laughs about it to this day. But during PEJ Ray, we decided we were going to practice the dance moves to the Shake Your Thing video by Salt and Pepper.
Why not?
And why
Hot
not?
song. It's a hot
It's a
song.
hot song. It's a hot routine going on, especially specifically the part where it's Salt and Pepper and Kid and Play. And they kind of partner off,
Mhm.
because Salt and Pepper
Yeah.
and Kid and Play, they partner off with opposites from the opposite band, and they're doing these dance steps together, right? So there's a
Yes.
combination of the James Brown where
Yep.
they're twisting their feet, and then there's a breakdown where one of the members does this backdrop
Yes.
onto their hands,
Mhm.
while the other member does a roundhouse kick over their head,
Yes.
and they spin around and go back into the moves, right?
What
So
happened?
so
Sir
me,
Dave?
so me, we said, oh, we got this. We're gonna do this. We're gonna practice this down, right? So Keisha decides to be the person to do the backdrop and down to the ground,
Got you.
and I'm the one that's gonna execute the roundhouse kick over her head,
Yes.
and spin around and we start all over again.
Yes.
Keisha, she executed the drop to the ground. My roundhouse kick over her head did not do a full 360. As a matter of fact, somewhere in the middle, my leg in all its force down to my foot landed square in the middle of Keisha Scott's head. And Keisha fell out to the ground. And at 13, I'm not a small kid anymore. I'm like one of the tallest people in our class. I'm a big dude, and I'm still trying. I'm getting busy with these dance steps. My foot landed square on her head, and those people, and when things like that happen, they happen in slow motion. All I remember is Shawana Scott on the ground rolling from laughter. And she never lets us forget this to this day if we happen to see each other in chat. She never lets us forget that day, the day that I kicked Keisha. She's like, it was the day you kicked Keisha Scott in the head trying to do the Kid and Play kick step and salt and pepper and all that nonsense. But that's what we did, J. Ray. Listen, I just knew I was going to be in a video. And some of y'all out there are listening and laughing right now, but how many of y'all had the biker shorts and just knew you was going to be a part of 357 and go on tour with MC Hammer? Well, you were practicing those dance steps. You know you did. You had your patent leather smooth bottom shoes on with the big buckle or the big bow on it. You were trying to do those dance steps, and you were trying to learn how to be let's get it started and do the body roll and the Roger Rabbit to it. You were doing it, so don't laugh at me and my pain. And shout out to Keisha Scott.
Shout out to Keisha Scott. One day, so that is hilarious. That is hilarious. Y'all cannot see this, but there's a tear in the corner of my eye, y'all. I don't have we won first place at a talent show because of the dancing. We danced to Moni in the Middle.
Yes.
There's video evidence of this. I tried to hide it for years. Somebody has a VHS tape because my dad made copies and gave them out to people. So they exist. They're in the world. So if I ever find them, I may have said this on the show before, but if I ever find that video, I promise I will make a digital version and I will bring it here.
Please,
I will bring it here so y'all can see us doing all the dances of the day of 1990.
Anthony Barnes, if you have that video of your 11th birthday where we are doing the WAP and I think at one point I broke out into that dance that Prince was doing at the end of Purple Rain where he was moving his hand around his. Yes. I was wilding that. But I love to dance when no formal training, just having a good time. Yes. And that's what we were supposed to do, was have a good time.
Y'all, like these moments, teen dance shows were so important to our development. It showed us ourselves on TV, as we've already said. It introduced us to new music. It taught us new dances. It was really about community, and really, really did make a difference in just making our upbringing fun. Like it was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah, man.
It was fun. So we on the other side of this break, we got to catch up and talk about all the stuff that's been going on.
Lots of stuff.
The Diss War of 2024. Do you know where you were during the Diss War of 2024? But I'm so happy that we had this opportunity to talk about teen dance shows and teen dance moves. But after this, we're going to catch you up. I am so happy to see all of you tuned in. Please don't go anywhere. This is Q Points Podcast. I'm DJ Sir Daniel.
I'm J Ray.
And this is what we do. This is what, if you're over 40, if you're over 35, over 40, and you remember this, these are the kinds of conversations that we have here on podcasts, and we want you to be a part of it. So remember, subscribe and come back each week, because we do this each week.
Absolutely. So listen, y'all. First and foremost, subscribe. Wherever you are tuning in at this moment, wherever you are hearing our voices, please go ahead and subscribe. If they have notifications bells, use the notification bell so you can get notified when we have new shows. If you are listening to the show on your podcast platforms, make sure that you subscribe there. One of the things that we always say is Q points, share the show with your friends, family, colleagues. If you like the show, chances are they will like the show too. And that's the way that we build the audience for the show. That's really key. Make sure that you sign up for our newsletter. You can visit us at magazine.qpoints.com where you get more from Q Points, and you can shop our store, get some fly merch at store.qpoints.com.
Well, J. Ray, it's like I always say, in this life, you have a choice. You can either pick up the needle or you can let the record play. I'm DJ Sir Daniel.
My name is J. Ray, y'all.
And this has been Q Points Podcast, dropping the needle on Black music history. We'll see you on the next go round. Peace.
Peace.